Thrive with Mentoring, the global mentoring community for women, is testimony to the power of belief that women to women mentoring creates powerful transformation.
Hi, I'm Shivangi. To me, belief is not a word, it is a state of mind. It is what kept me going when I was down and out, and it is what has brought me to where I am today. Not too long ago, I was at crossroads in my career, a place where several women have been. I call it the maternity junction. This is this phase in our careers where the trajectory of our career path changes. It may get paused, and in some cases, it may even get stalled. After I went back to work from my maternity junction, I found out that there was no job anymore. I had to pull myself up, as painful as it was. And that's where my mentor played a pivotal role. So, what did my mentor instill in me? One simple notion that has made all the difference: belief. Belief opened the door for me. Because if I didn't have the belief in turning my life around, the determination to be able to do that, and most importantly, my belief that women to women mentoring relationships can be transformational, I would have never started something like Thrive to empower women.
What started as Shivagi's belief is today a global community of over 1,000 successful mentoring relationships in 15 cities across the globe with more than 30 cohorts in Europe and Asia. Every Thrive cohort is steered by cohort leaders, mentors, and mentees who are driven by their strong belief.
My belief is never stop learning.
I believe that women to women mentoring is unique because it is driven by compassion for each other.
My belief is that there's always something new to learn and that learning gives you confidence.
I believe if you can see it, you can be it.
My belief is that through mentoring, you can learn in a most joyful way.
I believe we are the system. We're empowered to change the systems and structures that are no longer serving us as a human race.
My deepest belief is that reality is created out of possibility.
I believe that when women reach out and support each other, the whole community rises. Such is the power of womanhood.
I believe in the energizing and transformative power of community.
I believe that women have a unique ability to relate to each other and support each other in career development.
Belief is the foundation of Thrive with Mentoring that has created the community of successful women for success of younger women. As Thrive expands its global footprint, the vibrant community invites successful women professionals to join the tribe as cohort leaders, event associates, mentors, and mentees. If you believe in yourself, Thrive has belief in you.
So it's an amazing introduction, and it was so nice to see this video, which kind of gives us the overarching theme of the session, which is about this organization, Thrive with Mentoring, and Shivangi Walke, who is the founder, as you've heard, of this organization, which is now across 8 countries, and changing the lives of thousands of women through mentoring relationship. I'm going to just share my own thoughts on the organization, because I've been working with Shivangi and Asha on the program in terms of crediting their programs, which is the ISMCP, the International Standard for Coaching and Mentoring Programs. And it has given me an insight into the organization, the commitment and passion of the people who are involved in it. So the program is voluntary-based, non-profit organization, and as you've seen, the impact it's having on women. So it is my delight today to introduce Shivangi, as well as Asha. So Shivangi is got global experience in terms of her corporate leadership, and she's worked and trained many coaches, as well as leaders in about 40 countries across the globe, including organizations such as Google, Johnson & Johnson, Airbus, etc., and many more. Asha, I'd like to say a little bit about you as well. So you are in the role as the operational marketing lead for Thrive. You yourself have got entrepreneurship experience, and your passion is business development, and you support the organization in terms of operational design and system. So I'm going to hand over to Shivangi and Asha to take you through their story of belief and generosity. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chandana. It's a real privilege to be speaking to all of you today. And I'd love to start actually with a question, to just get a lay of the room, where you are and where you're coming from. So I'm going to ask Wayne in a minute to launch a poll. I'm very interested to know if any of you or how many of you are volunteers. And if you happen to be a voluntary mentor, that's what I'm very keen to know. So Wayne, if you want to launch the poll, I'd love to know where everybody is. If you are a voluntary mentor or not, you get to choose one thing, and then we'll see where everybody is. Okay, the responses are slowly coming in. Almost 70% done. Let's see. Oh, wow, quite a few are voluntary mentors. Excellent. My job today is to convince you that you must become a Thrive voluntary mentor. Especially if you are a woman, and we really think that women to women mentoring can change the world, and I'll talk much more about that. Okay, I think we have more than 80% participation. I think it's fine, Wayne. Just show the results. Let's see. Can everybody see the results? We have around 38, so let's say a few didn't answer. So almost, 40% are voluntary mentors. Excellent. This is excellent recruitment ground. Thank you. I want to talk to you about the story of Thrive in terms of, what started, what started Thrive and where it is going and how it is thriving today. And I mean, you heard a little bit about that story, but just to put a little bit meat on the bone, I actually came back from my maternity leave. This is a long time back, okay? So it's not as if I immediately started Thrive. It's almost a decade back. I came back from my maternity leave and in a job where I was headhunted after 10 rounds of interviews, in a job where I had performed exquisitely before I left in maternity, I was told that the job doesn't exist. It was a complete shock for me because, I had left another organization where I was doing really well to be headhunted into this job. I had been working for around 1.5 years before I went on maternity. So I just didn't know what to do. I was like completely shaken. It was an identity crisis moment for me, right? And I think that's where, and I talk a little bit on my TEDx talk around it. So please have a look at it if you have the opportunity. But I think what helped me, in addition to like a lot of self-reflection and writing practice, was to have a woman mentor. And this was not through a program like Thrive. It was just a woman whom I knew, a senior leader, and she really supported me, because I think it was a classic moment in which I could have gone down the spiral. And I know several such women, and I guess men, who are never able to come out of this kind of a difficulty, especially if you've had a nice, rising career all the time, and then you don't know what to do, right? And I think what helped me tremendously with having a woman mentor is that she didn't only understand my professional, plight, if I can call it that, but she also understood that I was a new mother. That whole idea of being there, done that, of balancing career with also the possibility of becoming a new mom, which creates all kinds of things for women, was so important. And I think the most important thing she did was she did not keep on saying to me, what could I have done differently, etc. She was always like, okay, where do we want to go? What do you want to do next? Where are you going next? And that was fascinating, right? And I was in quite a senior role, so I had a 6-month, a redundancy, or what do you call that, garden leave. And then the first interview I went for was after 3 months, and I landed my next job. It was also the time I made the decision that I want to leave corporate and I want to start my own business. But I'll be the first to admit that even if you make that decision, to implement it, to stop the security of a good paycheck at the end of the month, did take me some time. So I took one more job, and then I stepped out. And that was the genesis of Thrive with Mentoring, because I thought, oh my God, this is amazing that a woman in this, informal capacity could help me. What if I created a platform that would help women in a much more structured way, and we facilitate these women to women mentoring conversations? So that was really the genesis of Thrive. And if I can share a couple of things with you around that, this is our vision, a world where every woman lives an abundant lives, which is aligned to her values, gifts, and joys. And I think joy is a very important factor for us, like belief, because we feel that, when you are in your organizational life, you tend to do things which will, of course, satisfy you professionally, but sometimes these might be things that do not really bring you joy. You do that just to get the paycheck, right? So we want to ensure that we create a sense of meaning and purpose for women beyond just professional recognition, which a lot of us might be compromising on even today because we need to pay our bills, and that's the reality. So we are today present on 3 continents, and we plan to go to the 4th one in 2023. Thrive has been acknowledged with various awards, especially this year, and a lot of these are unsolicited awards. So each time we win an award, we are like, oh, that's amazing, because, we get requests and saying, oh, you must apply for this award and that. We have never applied for any award, but some people are now awarding us despite not applying. So we're very happy for that. Apparently we are winning awards, despite not applying, which is great. Now, just probably I'm preaching to the converted here, right? But I just want to say a little difference between what I think coaches do and mentors do, right? Because it is Thrive with Mentoring. We have really focused on mentoring rather than coaching as a way to lead for this organization. And though both the professions, both these helping professions, they encourage self-improvement, they provide a safe setting for honest sharing. I think the big difference is that the mentor will provide advice based on their own personal experiences, right? Based on the goodwill that they have, based on the network that they have, and sharing real life stories of both success, but also not success, right? But also failures. I mean, I can tell you the story I tell about being made redundant. This is a story has taken a long time for me to tell, because initially when that happened, I had a huge sense of shame because I thought, oh my God, how is this happening to me, right? And just in May this year, I told the story on the TEDx stage, which I can tell you, taken 10 years, but it's a huge, huge jump from feeling ashamed of something that happened to me to be proudly saying, this is what happened to me. This is what I did about it. And this organization is, it was the starting point, right? So it's almost like I managed to make my message. And I think that is probably very inspirational for all these women across all these continents that are joining Thrive, because Thrive is a completely volunteer-led organization. We have a couple of employees who are paid, who are doing more like operations, social media, logistics, administration, etc., right? But the majority of the work, which is much more about facilitating mentoring, is done by volunteers. To date, we have catalyzed around 1,200 one-on-one mentoring relationships. We are present in 10 countries now, and we have had in the last 5 years, 150 volunteers. So that's really where we are. Now, this is our belief in terms of mentoring, that even though the mentor brings a lot more experience, the relationship is quite equal in nature. So we have created mechanisms which will allow even mentees to give feedback to their mentors. So we know there is a power differential, right? But we try to reduce it by saying, hey, even if you are in there as a volunteer, even if you want to pay it forward, so many of our mentors have said that, oh, I gained so much from this relationship, because a typical Thrive mentee might also challenge a Thrive mentor. And the interesting thing about mentoring is that even though as a volunteer you come in to pay forward, now we have hundreds of stories of women saying how it has helped them, because it's difficult to dish out advice to people if you're not taking your own medicine. So there's almost this self-coaching, aspect that comes into Thrive. Probably a lot of you here know already that mentoring really changes people's lives, right? It helps people to get promoted. It helps people to feel more confident. It helps people to achieve more professional success. Thrive is always focused not just on professional, but also professional and personal success. Now, one of the things that we noticed was that women are 24% less likely than men to get advice from senior leaders. And unfortunately, the Me Too movement, which did many good things, don't get me wrong, Me Too was very good for a lot of women, but in terms of mentoring, it was not great because men started feeling more guarded about mentoring younger women. So, there is an interesting dynamic, right? There are all of these unintended consequences that happen. And we saw a clear rise in women to women mentoring, after, let's say around a year after the Me Too movement, which was pretty much the same time as the pandemic hit. And I must say, when the pandemic hit, the whole idea of women to women mentoring became transformational for so many women. And we also moved away from, I'm just talking about these one-on-one mentoring relationships, but we do a lot of what I could say one-to-many mentoring. What would that be in the format of? We do things like group mentoring. For example, during the pandemic, I think it was in May 2020, we launched a program called She Thrives. And that program, we attracted around 15, 20 of our mentors, and then we opened it up. It was a free program for everybody who wanted to sign in, and we got applications from everywhere, a couple of hundred, and I think we took around 60 to 70 women to enroll in that program, which consisted of, okay, if I'm on furlough, basically working with women in, at not just the level of professional, because of course we'll help them to make, better CVs, how to interview better, how to polish your LinkedIn profile and that kind of thing. But also the more, the emotional burden that women seem to have carried. And there's so much narrative around that. And we were supporting these women right when it was happening, right? We actually did that in a way that impacted so many more. So though we started with one-on-one mentoring, I think Thrive has now gone a lot into this, one-to-many mentorings. Okay, a question for you now. Who gains more from mentoring, do you think? Wayne, if we can launch the poll again, who gains more from mentoring, the mentor or the mentee? It would have been amazing if we could have correlated those of you who are voluntary mentors with this response. So we could have seen a relationship, but let's see. Let's see what's coming out. 70% have participated, a few more responses. Tatiana, that's a smart one, mentor and mentee. Thank you. Though that was a trick question. Looks like Tatiana has discovered it. Okay, Wayne, show us the answer. Show us the answer. Show us the results. Okay, around 42%. Oh, wow. Think that the mentor benefits more. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that really says it, right? So those of you who have not tried mentoring, you should really try it, because even though you think that the mentee might be the beneficiary, and it is true that the mentee is the beneficiary, there is no doubt about it. There is so much more that a mentor gains than what they might have initially assumed, so it really, really changes, and it changes through your experiences, right? So yes, both parts indeed can bring, and as with anything else, I think mentoring benefits as much to the extent to which you are committed to the relationship. And this is always a challenge, right? I don't know how many of you are even involved. I know EMCC has a lot of volunteers. Volunteers and managing volunteers is quite a tricky thing because especially in today's world, and I'd love to open that discussion with all of you, because when the pandemic happened, we sort of became so easy for us, right? We had this extra time, the commute was gone, and volunteering became like a thing to create meaning and purpose and connection, etc. And now in this post-pandemic era, it's become a little bit more challenging, for sure. It's we get a lot of people who sign up for things, but who may not necessarily show up, right? And I'd love to talk a little bit more about that, actually. So just to say, what is in it for a mentor? of course, they have this sense of meaning and purpose because you're contributing. And I'm talking about a voluntary mentor here, right? Because I do know there are lots of programs that will allow paid mentorship or paid coaching, right? Thrive is not in that space. So we do voluntary mentoring. But what we've seen is that in addition to the satisfaction of seeing somebody else grow and hence feeling significance for yourself, there is a lot more going on for a mentor. It really helps you to reinvent yourself. You can be a different version of yourself. You can actually bring some of those things that you wish you knew when you were on that path. And I don't know, for those of you, and I'd love for you to share in chat if you have had that experience. There's a little bit of this deja vu that comes in and saying, oh my God, I can so totally see why this mentee thinks the way she does. And it's so good that, we have this conversation and we have this relationship that we can share this. So yes, increased self-awareness and of course networking opportunities, because our belief is, and Thrive is really built on that the community is what matters, right? Just like we say that it takes a village to bring up a child, we really believe that for a woman's development, it takes a whole community, especially as we live in times of an ongoing war and post-pandemic. I mean, there's like no dearth of challenges that we have that creates so much uncertainty. And we know that loneliness is really a disease of our times. So it's amazing really to be a part of that community. What we've seen is not just the mentor-mentee relationship, which is usually the starting point for a lot of these women, but then they become a part of this very giving community. And at a later point, I'll share with you one of the videos of a cohort leader. A cohort leader in Thrive, what we do is every city has 3 to 4 volunteers who manage the city cohort. We call them cohort leads. They're usually committed with us for 1 full year. The program, we have reduced it from a year to 6 months because we realized that in a voluntary setup, it's good to have the perspective of 6 months. People still do 8 to 10 sessions. When we had a 1 year program, they still did 8 to 10 mentoring sessions, right? So that's why we said minimum of 6, and people tend to do 8 to 10 sessions. And it's usually giving similar results to a 1 year relationship. Oh, wow, I'm getting all these comments from Prague and from Sudan. Lobna is asking, I'm wondering whether there is research about which criteria, skills, and mentors make the experience more productive. Oh, yes, I'm sure there is a lot of research. And I don't know, Chandana, if you have a link to put in the chat, which talks about mentoring skills. And that's the reason we started the EMCC journey, really, because Thrive, as you see, is a grassroots organization, right? We have actually developed as an idea, and then it has taken legs to now be in so many countries and so many cities. Yes, what's in it for a mentee? I mean, there is really a lot in it for the mentee, right? But our feeling is the safe space to try out new ideas, especially for women, I have to say. Or if you have an immigrant experience, I think the same things sort of apply for you, that before trying things out, you will actually, or your mind will tell you what might not work. It's going to, and then you're going to delete your own ideas. You're going to paint a doomsday scenario, and you're going to lose your personal power. And I think that is where mentoring makes such a huge difference, because all those fears that you have, you talk them out to your mentor, and the mentor helps you to build this belief, to rebuild this confidence so that you can try it out in the real world. And I want to stop here for a moment because I want to welcome in Asha. Asha has started with Thrive almost 3 years back. She is the backbone of Thrive, I would say. And I really wanted her to be a part of this conversation because she has an amazing story of, what she used to do for Thrive, what she is today doing for Thrive, and how she has seen, her growth. Asha, would you want to share that?
Of course, I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event, I guess. A little bit about myself. My background is in software engineering, and then I did my master's in data networks and security. So naturally, I assumed that my career path was going to be sorted and fixed for me. I did pretty well, but then Brexit and the pandemic, it didn't really quite go as well, or as planned rather. And then somewhere around 2019, I got involved with ThrivewithMentoring, and I got involved by helping them, starting out to help them with social media and marketing in general. And I think for me, it was really life-changing to stumble upon this environment where women help each other with no motive or no incentive. It was just out of generosity. So that I think itself was a very different environment for me to be in. And also my role over the last 3 years at Thrive has changed so radically that I think I have worked with all project leaders and cohort leaders from operational and creative aspects. And I think that as someone who's in the first decade of their career journey, I think that has been so amazing because I got to learn so much and better yet implement it. So I think that's been the best part about my role at Thrive with Mentoring, that I keep on learning every day and with various women all over the world, because as Thrive goes to every new city and every new country and continent, I think in a way I travel with it because I'm there in the launch events and working and networking with the cohort leads. And that's been a fantastic part of my journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Asha. Yeah, that is fascinating, right? So this year we actually went to Nairobi and to Tel Aviv. Thrive is an organization that has European roots. I'm based in Switzerland, so that was the clear starting point of Thrive. And I'm of Indian origin, so this is just natural, right? Everything is voluntary, so everything needs to be based on networks. So Thrive, I launched it in Switzerland and then took it to India. So those were the two places where it became, quite big in 2018, 2019. But the pandemic changed it dramatically because suddenly from, we do these launch events. Just to show you maybe a little bit of the picture of the Thrive journey, because that'll give you a good sense of what is it that we do. And when you decide to volunteer with Thrive, then what is in it for you? So this is how a typical Thrive cohort works, right? We have quite a big launch event, and we believe in that launch event because unlike a lot of programs, we don't say, you're the mentor, you're the mentee, and now go figure out, right? We don't do that. We actually get people to register. We ask the mentors for their strengths. We ask the mentees for their needs. And then we actually match each mentor with 3 potential mentees and each mentee with 3 potential mentors. And at that big launch event, which is usually in person, during the pandemic, we did it online and worked pretty well, but we've gone back to in person because we really feel that at least at a city level, that this is going to be a glue for the community and not just one-to-one mentoring. That's where we do these speed mentoring sessions. And then we ask each mentor, okay, out of the 3 people you met, who's your choice 1, 2, and 3? We ask the mentees the same question. And Asha has this amazing algorithm, which sort of spews out, okay, so if those are the choices, what is going to be the best match that we can possibly, give you? Now, doesn't mean that you'll always get somebody that was your first choice. Doesn't mean that, right? But usually you'll get one of your first 2 choices. So that's what we do. And I think that the magic of that launch event, even though it requires a lot of commitment, right? I mean, can you imagine if there are 40 women coming in, that means, and then everybody has to meet 3 people. It's a lot of mix and match that the cohort leaders, the city cohort leaders have to start doing to make everything work. And then the mentoring sessions happen. You can see there, those 6 mentoring sessions. Those are the minimum, by the way. What we've noticed is that in the first month, the women tend to meet much more frequently, as frequently as once a week. So they might have 3-4 sessions already in the first 1 or 2 months. And then it goes to a more monthly cadence. Somewhere after the 2nd month, we have a pulse check call. We do this separately for mentors and mentees. The cohort leads are leading that call. And there they actually are asking the mentors, what's working for you, what's not working, is your mentee committed, what help do you need from us, etc. Right? We have a standard process. I guess it's not going to be new for many of you on this call, but we use things like mentoring contracts. I have done a series of like short videos, around 17 short videos, which are much more around skills of mentoring, right? So how do you listen? How do you paraphrase? How do you challenge? And that kind of thing, So we get a lot of first-time mentors at Thrive. Around 20% of Thrive mentors are accredited coaches, right? And then they do this as a part of giving back. But the majority, around 80%, are usually employed women who might have, we have certain criteria. You need at least 15 years work experience and at least 5 years of people management experience to become a mentor at Thrive. But our assumption has been that you're bringing this, it's sort of in your rucksack. The whole mentoring thing is a skill set you bring to the program already. And with EMCC now, we want to change this. In 2023 onwards, we will start offering a possibility to study to become a better mentor with Thrive, right? So there is going to be a certified program that will allow people to become mentors and to get evaluated. And it's almost a 20-hour learning process that we are bringing in next year. Okay, coming back to the journey, we have a power networking event somewhere in the middle. And this is really to impress on women the power of networking with each other in the community. You know, something very interesting that I found out, and by the way, Thrive is my passion project. It is not my day job. You know, so many people think that Thrive is what I do, but I don't. It's actually my day job is to be a trainer and to be a coach, and that is what brings me, you know, the sort of, what's the word, liberty to work with Thrive without, you know, having any kind of commercial gains from it. Again, a notion that was very, very difficult for a lot of people to understand. I mean, to tell you a story, when I first had this idea, this is around 2016, and I was doing my a master's in organizational development in the UK. And I had a lot of fellow students who were coaches. So I launched this idea with them and I said, you know, this is what I think, and I've really benefited. And they totally negated the idea. They said, really? Why would a woman who's really successful and super busy, why is she going to now mentor somebody she doesn't know at all and somebody from whom she cannot potentially benefit? You know, like, I could have at that moment, and that's why I keep talking about belief, I could have at that moment, but this was coming from my friends, right? And my fellow students. And they just thought, this sounds weird. You know, I don't see why anybody would do that. Nobody questions it anymore, by the way. You know, now after thousands of relationships, and people say, why is it that women do that? And I think, I don't know, we're just probably built that way, right? That's why I think the organization is really on the foundation of radical generosity and this sense of abundance that is coming through all these women. And what I realized, and this was really the turning point for Thrive, what I realized was that though I started it in Switzerland and then launched it in India, these countries and the cities, so this is like Zurich and Mumbai, right? Completely different cultures, completely different way of thinking, completely different experiences. And it resonated in both these places. You know, that was for me really that gave me the confidence to say, you know what, this is an idea that really works, you know, and now it is working in so many other places. As I said, Israel and Kenya, and next year we'll also go to New York, to the US. It's really Europe. Volunteerism works. That is very well known. And of course, it is our biggest, I would say, you know, mentoring pool. It still comes from Europe. But in the more developing countries, there was a big question mark, you know, is volunteering going to work in Africa? Is it going to work in India? And it does work. It does work, you know, and we are really trying to, oh, thank you so much for sharing all that, Chandana. It's in the chat for those of you who want to explore a little bit more around mentoring. Yeah, so it's really coming back to that idea that mentoring can benefit both mentors and mentees. And we have created this mechanism. Let me share with you what happened in 2022 with Thrive to give you an idea. Just to give you an impression there around the fact that though we keep talking about mentoring, what we are realizing is that we are creating a platform that empowers women in so many different ways. And I think that has really made the community thrive, especially during the pandemic, right? Especially during the pandemic where women actually shrunk. You know, they had more the care burden. They were actually not benefiting so much. The women who lost their jobs was a much higher percentage than men who lost their jobs. And also in terms of being put on furlough, and then, you know, the gender equality agenda, for those of you who follow the UN SDGs, it has taken a 10-year gap. So, I mean, of course, it was going to take all those years to meet, but now it's like 10 years back, right? 1.5 to 2 years of the pandemic has pushed the gender equality. And that is where we really feel that women to women mentoring can really, really play a very big role. I can keep talking, people, but if you have any questions, you know, please put them in chat or even just unmute yourself. Okay, how to find this kind of mentoring in Paris? Oh, you find it on 9th Jan. Okay, good. I love such questions which preempt what I'm going to show next. Here you go. So we have Thrive coming up in the, where is it? So this is our timeline, by the way, you know, all the different cities where we are in, and I want to share with you this. Okay, so very easy, scan this QR code. We already have a date for our next launch. It's already the 3rd launch in Paris on Jan 9th. And then we have Basel and Zurich, and we have Tel Aviv. And there will be 6 more cities next year, but we just don't have the dates yet. If you scan this code, you can always keep in touch. Also put your email on chat if you want to receive a message from us when we launch in different cities, right? So, you know, you're super welcome to join as a Thrive mentor or a mentee, actually. I want to share with you the story of a mentee and share with you also this whole idea. Oh, thanks, Asha. So just write to hello@ThriveWithMentoring, right? Anytime, any question that you have, anything that you want to you know, do with our organization or support the cause of women to women mentoring, you are super welcome. I want to share with you the story of Oksana here. Oksana, and she'll tell a little bit about her story of herself, but, you know, she went through a huge burnout during the pandemic. She is of Russian and Ukrainian origin, and with a large multinational, she moved from Moscow to Switzerland several years back, and she only knew the people in her organization. Things went from bad to worse. Typical immigrant experience, by the way. There is, now I've heard hundreds of such stories, but she actually speaks to us, and I mean, she did a much longer interview, but we have a 1-minute excerpt here of what helped her by joining the community. And Oksana actually joined not just as a mentee, which she was and she benefited from, but she decided to take the step. And this is a big step for somebody who is on, you know, who's in burnout situation, right? She said, I want to give more to the community. So she actually even signed up as a cohort lead in Lausanne. Let's see what she has to say.
When I had my burnout and lost my job as an immigrant that came to the country with my at the time employer, I literally only professionally knew people from my old company. And I had the feeling that there was no life outside of that organization. So I was like, you know, fish thrown out of the sea. And being a cohort lead was, for me, in a sense, a group therapy and a catalyst to my recovery. I saw many women also having similar problems. And I realized, like, okay, I'm honestly not alone. And I also saw these women bravely walking their paths out of their circumstances, any circumstances they had. They were going towards what they wanted to achieve. And I really believe that this was actually the energy that helped me land my dream job after 18 months of search. So let me be very fair. I also became a mentee of my wonderful mentor, Sridevi, and this helped me a lot. So I cannot say like everything that happened is only because I was a cohort lead. I was a mentee as well. And so in a year and a half, first, and probably most important, I realized something that didn't happen to me in 3 years of therapy, but happened in Thrive as a mentee. And I believe it's absolutely priceless to have a community of people who have your back and make you feel safe and supported. And becoming a Thriver was definitely a great thing in my life. What brought me to Thrive was a wish to give and to be part of success stories of mentors and mentees. But I can definitely tell you that I received back tenfold, and I would have definitely done it again.
Okay, I want to really open up the stage for questions at this stage. And thanks for everybody for putting in their emails. And as I said, just write to hello@ThriveWithMentoring, go with ThriveWithMentoring.com. I see multiple women here, though I cannot see them on video. And men, I mean, of course, you can please spread the word, with your network, your wives, your partners, your daughters. And yes, Thrive chooses to be in the women to women mentoring space. But that doesn't mean that you cannot participate and support us. But let me open the stage here and throw a question to you. I don't know if you have noticed that there is a lot of languishing at the moment in the society. There is a lot of ways in which we are struggling to connect and to remain connected. We feel very overwhelmed. I don't know, Wayne, can we have a short breakout group, you think? Because I want to give people the opportunity in small groups, maybe groups of 5 or 6 people, to have a conversation on how you really feel today after the post-pandemic era. And I'm very keen to understand your point of view on how something like mentoring in general and women to women mentoring may be able to reconnect the societal fabric, right? So I just want to give you an opportunity for a few minutes to speak to each other, and then we'll come back and have a conversation. So what are the sort of themes that were emerging in the really short breakout room that you had? I'd love to, answer any questions, or if you want to share any kind of, experience that you have, please just unmute yourself.
The question was, what is the difference between a mentor and a cohort lead specifically? I think that was it.
Yeah. Okay. So mentors and mentees are, of course, people who are primary to that relationship, right? And usually we have around 15 to 20 pairs in each city. Cohort leads are only around 3 to 4 women who manage the city cohort. So let's say Zurich, it will have 40 mentors and mentees, but it'll only have 2 or 3 women. Actually, this year it was only 2 women who hold this community together, who are responsible, who work at the launch event to pre-match people. To be a cohort lead at Thrive is much more work than to be, if I can say, just a mentor or mentee, because the mentoring relationship is one-on-one, and the cohort leadership, and that's what you gain from it, right? That the cohort leadership is much more about one-to-many. You learn the skill of being what I call, how to be community-driven, right? It's one thing to be a mentor, and as I said, I really believe that anybody who wants to become a mentor can become a mentor, and they'll have something to offer. I'm just going to share quickly my a page here which might help you further. So this is the website of Thrive with Mentoring, and if you go here and say join us as a cohort lead, you can get all your answers around that, right? But we really believe that community building, powerful network of women, and what I like to say, the inner workings of the leadership team of a radically generous organization, right? That's what you get. There are a couple of videos here that explain, what a cohort lead is and does. And Asha, maybe you can just put the link of, oh, she's already done it. She always pre does what I think she should do. It's amazing. So yeah, the link is there. I think you can click it and you can find everything about a cohort lead there. And we'd love to get cohort leads in new cities.
Yeah, okay. Shivangi, I just wanted to say that in our group, although not all of us in the room had a chance to speak, it was super speed dating experience, but one of the things that came out from it is that element of community within your organization, as you've described it, is it's not like just about being allocated a mentor and working on a one-to-one with a mentor, but it's about that creating the community, whether it be through the cohort leads or various other support you offer to women in terms of network. And I think that was coming through. And you may want to say a bit more about that, because I think that's, at least from my experience of working with you and Asha over the last month or more, in terms of going through the accreditation, that's one of the things that is if you like the highlight that shows through, that it's you have got layers of things happening within the
That is
mentor
true.
mentee.
That is very
So
true.
maybe that's something to say more about and let people know as well.
I want to share with you a quick image here, if I can, right? Because we have, oops, there is, I don't know, maybe there is just music on this if I go on. Okay, we can just look at it this way then without the music. I think that we are moving always in the direction of a broader women empowerment platform, right? So what you've heard a lot about is this one-to-one mentoring, okay? And of course, that remains at the foundation of Thrive with Mentoring. But what we have is helping you to work in a 1 to small group setup, which is the squad leadership team, right? As I said, 3 to 4 women whom we want to offer a lot of autonomy. So of course there is a standard Thrive program and you follow the Thrive processes and etc., right? But there is still a lot of autonomy for you as the small group to shape the community experience in your city. And we knew that this is really important because of being so cross-cultural. Everybody really knows what's important in their city the best, you know? So we are not the sort of organization that's going to dictate for you how you're going to run your city community. We want new ideas to flourish. I mean, just to give you an example, we do these pulse check calls and we do the power networking. But for example, people said in their community, they want to invite a speaker and hold an event. Sure, do that. We want to do a hike for our community, do that. We want to do a picnic for our community, do that, you know? So if you're ready, you can really shape the community experience a lot, right? And then last year we started, well, actually 2 years back, we started with Thrive Awards, because what we realized was we want to celebrate and recognize women who are going above and beyond, right? I mean, there are hundreds of women doing mentoring, but some of them really transform the lives of these mentees. And we wanted to award those people, you know, and recognize them. So there is a lot of information you can find on Thrive with Mentoring under awards, where how we have a judge panel and we have all these women applying. The mentor nominates the mentee nominates the mentor, and then the judges decide who's going to be the mentor of the year and mentee of the year, which is fascinating, because what we've learned now is if you become a mentor of the year with Thrive, apparently there are many benefits that you get back in your organization. They get elevated their profile, right? I mean, it's like a side benefit, but that's not what we had imagined, and that's happening. And we give you also the platform to talk to people, you know, on all of these sessions. I don't know if you saw the recap of 2022. We hosted around 27 speakers. You know, I host a podcast called as Unstoppable Me. You can find it on Thrive with Mentoring, where I'm actually bringing to the platform women who have stories of literally going very, very low in their careers and then rising up, right? Because we want to hear such stories. You know, there's so much doomsday kind of thing that we keep hearing. And I really want to give the platform to these unstoppable women, extremely resilient ones who have gone through a real dip. I mean, just earlier this week, I had Debbie Clark on the platform. I mean, she was living on benefits, you know, in the UK. And now she's somebody who's running her own, you know, thriving business in terms of helping other women entrepreneurs. And the best part is she said now she's actually promoting having women's statues across the UK, starting with Nottingham. And I'm like, this is fascinating. You know, that, yes, I mean, how many women's statues have you seen across the world where you are living in, right? So it's fascinating, all these women, you know, what they do and what they can do. And we bring these stories. So we're doing a lot of these internal recognition mechanisms, but now we've started with impacting, you know, externally, right? So EMCC is an external accreditation that we are getting. So if you wanted, you come in and you get an EMCC accreditation using Thrive, you know, the training program of Thrive, which will be launched next year, by the way. It's not the current program. We are launching another version of a new program, which will be much more certified from EMCC. Or we are launching a book, curating a book of all of these stories, making huge strides in understanding how the publishing industry works. But the idea of curating the book was to again, enable people to tell their stories of how they transformed with mentoring, and telling them not, we do that a lot with our testimonials and on our social media channels, but we realize that's not enough. We need to curate those stories in the form of a book. So that's where we have all these amazing stories coming from our community, and we are working with a developmental editor to put it all together so that it becomes an interesting book which is, I think it's an ode to the community. It's a book that is co-authored by maybe 30, 40 women that will be talking about how mentoring can change them, both mentors and mentees, but also our volunteers, like you saw Oksana, right? Oksana has a story in the book where she'll be talking much more about what she said. Really struck me, because actually even I was not aware of that till Asha showed me this video a couple of days back, because there are many sessions of Thrive that I'm not currently a part of, and I think this was one of the sessions with the cohort leads where she shared her story in an unsolicited way, right? And she said that it helped her much more than therapy. She's been doing therapy after a burnout for 3 years, but the whole idea of there are so many other women going through this, and they're coming out of this, and this continuous ability to see how other people are surpassing and overcoming these obstacles. I think that is the strength of the community, Chandana. That is what is really striving, makes women strive and wish for more, even if today it looks as if there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Any other questions and comments? I know we are right on the dot there, probably coming to the end of our time together. I want to thank all of you for your amazing engagement. I can see all these bright faces. I'd love for you, as I mentioned earlier, to be able to join our community, to be able to contribute. And what I can promise you definitely is that you will get at least as much, from being a mentor, not necessarily with Thrive, right? But to be a voluntary mentor, you get at least as much, if not more, from that experience. Of course, in my whole story, I have been telling that women to women mentoring matters, because women to women mentoring creates some sort of a magic which goes beyond just looking at it as mentoring, as a professional setup. It just does it much, much more. So here I'm sharing again with you the code. Well, the challenges that we currently have are linked to, as I said, languishing. There is a lot of quiet quitting, as you know. There's so much written on this great resignation after the pandemic. So people are just less engaged and they're feeling more overwhelmed. So I thought that one of the conversations we could have in the group could be in small groups to discuss what are those challenges and what could we do to mitigate that, in terms of the community. So that is something that probably we can take maybe 6 or 7 minutes in the small group to have that conversation and come back and have a larger conversation. Okay, I'm going to start with something that was, that we had just started sharing in our group, and that is again this whole idea between, the difference between mentoring and coaching, and what do mentors do that might be different. At Thrive, we said, especially with women to women mentoring, you can mentor at many different levels. The first level that you can mentor, which is, you see this tree model that I speak about, is the goals that the mentee is already aware of, and those are the goals that they bring to you. They say, oh, I'm interested in having a better relationship with my manager, inspiring my team if they're a first-time manager, balancing work and life, when is the good time to, start a family, and all of those, right? So those are goals already that the mentee is aware of, and they bring it to a mentoring relationship. And I reiterate to the mentors that it is perfectly all right to be mentoring only at that level, that is still very, very valuable. But if you wanted to go a little bit deeper, there is a very interesting study, and I think I always like to show this book for those of you who are interested. It's called How Women Rise. the Marshall Goldsmith, who is quite well renowned as an executive coach, with Sally Helgeson, and I think it's Sally who's driven this book much more. Talk about the habits that women actually fall into, and this is research done across the world, right? So we always encourage our mentors to go a little bit deeper if they wanted to, and see. I mean, you see 4 of these habits. Too much emotions and too much disclosure. This whole disease to please that women have, building but not leveraging on relationships, falling into the perfection trap, and so on, right? There's around 12 of them that are spoken to in this book, and we have a tool that we share with our mentors. So we say, okay, if you wanted to work with them, then you can decide which are the 1 or 2 habits where people really are, women really could benefit, and you work at the level of habit, right? So you'll have to challenge, you'll have to push your mentee out of their comfort zone, etc. And the deepest level, and I call that the root level mentoring that you can do probably, is where you start working with your mentee at the level of their identity, their values, and their belief systems, right? This work does require a little bit more intensity, because it's so dependent on the culture, their family, their upbringing. There's just so much in there to unpack. And sometimes you might open a can of worms, right? With meaning to be helpful, but maybe it may not be the best use of your time as a mentor. I mean, coaches, people who have studied psyche and psychology and spend years doing that, I think they're best suited to do that. And we have people at Thrive who will work at that level, but that's not what we expect the if I can say, the typical mentor to bring to Thrive. But that's sort of a thinking framework to share around what a mentor can work with. We just started to share that in the small room. But Chandana, Asha, or anybody really, if you have come up with any insights from that small breakout you had, I'd be keen to hear.
We had a discussion about the languishing bit, and I think we were just coming to a really good solution. I think, Claudia, if you want to just talk about exactly what you said, I think she mentioned a really good point, and we were just closing that as we got out of the room.
I think that there's a sense after COVID, and also especially here in Europe with the war in the Ukraine, that there's a loss of reference, and the old box and structure that we used to live in, and that would provide for so much. That has definitely destabilized a lot of people, and also teams and organizations as a whole. There's some lingering sense of doom and gloom, and organizationally a lot of let's wait and see what's going to happen now over the next year or 2. We don't know what's coming down the pike. I found that sometimes contextualizing or even hyper-contextualizing can really help, in that you decouple a little bit what's happening here in our context, in our little part of the world, from what's going out in the wider ecosystem. Meaning, in this team, in this organization, we have control over some things. We can decide on our behaviors and mindsets, and so let's just see what we can control, what we can have agency over, and so on. And also then really, again, going away from problem space into more solution space. And I think that you don't necessarily need to be a coach to do that. I think mentors can also bring this future back attitude back into individuals, but also into teams and organizations. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I love that. I love what you're saying, Claudia, right? Contextualizing and decontextualizing. And I think mentors do that a lot, because, I mean, we all live in systems, right? And those systems might be at various levels. I mean, we are individuals in our family and in our organization. We are in a city, we are in a country, we are in a continent, and so on. I mean, as we live through those various systems, I guess, sometimes we might feel bogged down by our realities. If we define our life as something that is, that is limited, But if we look at it, and I mean, if you look at the more spiritual traditions, they will even look at interdependence across humanity, right? Which then gives us something to hold on to when things that we know, things that are not working around us, start to crumble, and we don't know, we're not so certain around where we are going with this. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Chandana, Becky, anything coming up?
Yeah, I was going to add that we did manage to have some really good points came up in our group. And I think one of the things that I hadn't really thought of was the fact that we had the pandemic and it came very dramatically, but we haven't had a proper ending of it. So I think we are still kind of, is it over? Is it not over? So people are responding to it in more than one way. So on one hand, people could be burnt out because they've been working a lot and the pandemic has been very demanding of us as in our workplaces. Or it could be that people are making choices, like, they're being very choiceful about what is it they want to do now. In terms of whether they want to volunteer or not volunteer, or areas of their work, maybe they're re-looking at that. Also identifying their needs as to what they want to prioritize. And some people may be discovering a new self through the use of technology. They've probably realized that they can change their careers and opportunities because they have become much more tech savvy. So there was lots of things that came out in terms of the impact of the pandemic, and therefore, how we are going forward with that. And there's a lot of variation in that, whether we are burnt out and exhausted. And for myself, I said I'm trying to find the work-life balance. So I'm still working on that and would love to have more space to do volunteering, but struggling with that. Whereas some people are being very choiceful about what they want to do. So those are very interesting points, actually, quite reflective ones.
Very much. I mean, Becky, please share your experience. You said something very insightful around how we overcommit and then feel guilty. I love that.
Yeah, I was saying a very similar thing, actually, about how sort of pre-pandemic we were very focused and sort of within the workplace. And then during the pandemic, we had the opportunities to do other things that gave a lot more back to our communities. And then post-pandemic, we seem to almost have the two merging together, and it's that dilemma of whether you're going to follow your head or your heart, really, as to what really fulfills you in those sort of volunteering and community driven things, or whether you're sort of being driven back by your daily grind of working and just again forging a way forward that gives you the balance of both of those things to satisfy you and feel like you're fulfilling all of those things that you want to achieve.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to hand it over back to you, Chandana, to have a last reflection, if you want to make any comments. And yeah, as we slowly bring to an end, maybe you can also speak a little bit about the networking break, what that does.
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you very much. So we're coming to the end of the session, and just to say what happens next, first of all, I just want to thank all of you for joining in the session, for your chat contribution, and for conversations in the break room. So thank you to all of you who've been here and participating. And a huge thank you to you, Shivangi, with your time and the way you presented, the work behind it, and same to Asha. In terms of the preparation, the time, and we're really, really pleased that you've been able to talk about Thrive here. Like I said earlier in the introduction, Thrive is just completing their ISMCP, which is the accreditation for coaching and mentoring with EMCC Global, and soon they will be accredited. And that's another thing, part of their journey that they described. So we're very pleased that you are joining the EMCC community, and we hope to be working with you more, Shivangi. But before we end the session, I just want to ask you as host, and also Asha, maybe like a 30-minute reflection on what stays in your mind through the dialogue and your presentation and some of the conversations you've had. And it's just to say that it will be recorded, so it will be shared at the ending session, end of conference session tomorrow. So it'd be great if you can share your reflections, and then Asha, if you want to come in and say share what your thoughts are, being part of this session and the conversations that we've been engaging in.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. And I think for me, it's really amazing to be, encountering probably a completely new, network through this opportunity. What I really enjoyed is the amount of engagement. I mean, the chat was buzzing, and what I loved is the questions, right, that go on. Of course, I mean, there is interest in Thrive and what do we do and how do we match mentors and mentees. I have particularly enjoyed and learned a lot from, the conversation that we've had around languishing and around what we can do as a community, and this head versus heart, as Becky put it, really, because volunteering, we know, allows us to feel a sense of meaning and purpose. And at the same time, we are pushed today because we are we are pulled today in so many directions that it can become challenging, and sometimes it can be this whole notion of what I should do versus what I want to do, right? And it's a continuous struggle, but I really love the way the community interacted during this session, and I'm really hoping that we can invite lots and lots of thrivers, as we call them. I see also a lot of commentary in the chat saying the session was very uplifting and inspiring, and that excellent work done by Thrive. I think that always says a lot, especially for somebody who might be very new to the organization. Asha?
Thank you, Shivangi.
For me, the experience was kind of similar. I think it was great. And I think seeing you present the whole thing as well, it was great to see it for the first time. And the reaction that we get, I think being a part of Thrive, every time I talk about it, I get excited and rejuvenated myself. And I've also found some interesting insights in the conversations about languishing. I think there was someone who mentioned that we didn't really get a chance to recover from the trauma that we experienced during the pandemic. And there's a confusion between if it ended or not, but we never had a period where we just rested, I guess, or did nothing at all. We kind of went about in our own lives. I think that was a definite, really important reflection for me, and also other insights as well that came up. Very helpful.
Just my reflection is when you were showing us some of the slides, one of the things I picked up from it is about overcoming perfectionism. And that really struck with me, because I think that's something that a lot of us as women could do with talking to somebody about, because we do try to do more and more and more. And it's good to be able to talk to another person where we could really explore this further. So that stayed in my mind as one of my takeaway from this session, is to think about that a bit more. So thank you once again.